Hello.
We did not struggle for approximately 10 minutes to get this thing going.
Not at all.
No.
If Amanda is frozen for anyone else, please let me know
Yeah, please
because
let
I don't
Corolla
know what is
know
happening.
because she will be vindicated if she knows that I am also experiencing issues. But if I but I'm looking at the stream right now and everything is fine.
Okay. Well, it's not
Uh
fine on my end, but okay.
what a mood. Happy belated Valentine's Day.
Happy belated Valentine's Day.
Um I am sick again.
No one told me. If you told me earlier, I would have told you to take some time off, but oh no.
No, that's not an option. I am once again sick, but I am here for you all because we had such a great time talking about BL misogyny that we need to do it again.
Yes, actually. I have a lot of notes.
No, all of you are perfect, and I love every single one of my children.
Okay.
I'm sick of the misogyny, but I love all of my children.
Well, who isn't?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about BL misogyny. We're gonna answer any questions that you guys have that came up through the episode. We're gonna talk about shipping male male in an attempt to save the female characters. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about misandry as a response to misogyny. Oh my god. Aw, thank
Yay,
you. I
thank
am
you.
I'm definitely on the upswing. I'm on the mend. Famous last words. Oh,
Please don't put it like that.
I'm definitely on the mend. But yeah, we have this thing. It's one of the reasons why, outside of us being a third world country in comparison, it's the big reason why Corolla can't visit me. We have this season called Cedar Season,
Oh my god.
and you can see pollen like snow,
Yeah, I'd die.
and like thousands of people are hospitalized every year.
Oh my god. I would be one of those people.
Well,
Like
the thing
100%.
is, it triggers people who don't usually have allergies to anything else. So they go into the hospital. It's like, I can't breathe. I can't fucking see. My chest hurts. I'm dying. And it's so they triage them up like, oh, this person's having a heart attack or a stroke. And it's like, no, you just need Claritin.
Oh
So
my god.
I was hospitalized once for cedar fever, and I just told the doctors at the ER, it's like, hey, I have allergies and I have asthma. It's probably cedar fever. And like one of the nurses hugged me because she's like, we have been triaging patients all day who think that they're having heart attacks. Thank you for just telling us you know what's fucking wrong with you. Um, so
Oh
yeah,
my god.
outside of us being a very unsafe third world country in comparison to where Corolla lives, we also have pollen you can see fall from the sky.
I love that. Actually, I mean, we are once again experiencing heavy snowfall,
Of course,
which I am not overjoyed about, but the past week my allergies did in fact flare up because the first it's interesting how the first hints of pollen season begin even though spring is like 3 months away. I think that that is a personal attack on my life
it is.
personally.
It
So
is.
I've been doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden my allergies just went completely, like, they flared up so hard, and I was like, what is happening? And my mom is like, well, apparently the two first pollen things have come. I'm like, thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
So we're totally healthy and not sick at all. Let's talk about misogyny.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, this is one of those episodes that very much feels like it was necessary because while I think we have all within fandom spaces and fujin spaces experienced this misogyny in one way or another, sometimes, or at least like I remember being early into fandom, it was hard to claim that, oh, it's misogyny. That's the problem.
I didn't know that word when I was
Yeah, I
early
didn't.
into fandom, so there's
Yeah,
that.
I didn't know that that word didn't exist. Women didn't have rights. We didn't. I didn't know that word early into my fandom journey, but looking back, it was misogyny. It was a form of misogyny. And I'd actually like to start us off by talking about the one thing that ends up kind of curing misogyny for a lot of fujoshis, especially, is having other female or AFAB friends.
Hmm.
Like I mentioned this on the show, and Corolla, you might be able to attest to this a little bit as well. But like the thing that got me to stop being a weird like femcel was having female friends
Hmm.
because they had access to the gay.
Hi.
Hello. I couldn't go ask my weird trenchcoat mafia guy friends to go find me I know Kusabi.
Hmm. I mean, I think my experience was slightly different because again,
Mm-hmm.
I was the
You were the
person in the
trench coat?
trench coat.
Yes.
Yeah, like I didn't actually own a trench coat because my boyfriend at the time did have one because he was a big fan of The Matrix. But all all the trench coats were way too big on my not very big 14-year-old stature. So, um, but I was the one providing everyone else with
Mm-hmm.
things, and again, like we were kind of lagging behind in the anime, manga,
Mm-hmm.
Japanese pop culture aspect of things. So I was basically the one who was providing everyone else, and I was pushing everything, including the BL, onto
Mm-hmm.
my mostly male friends. And so it wasn't until like much, much, much later, like now I have a lot of, maybe not so many female friends, but a lot of AFAB friends who
Yeah.
I have bonded with over BL and
Right.
over, the AFAB experience, not only in fandom, but like
Yes.
in life. But
In
it took a
life, yeah.
long time before I actually made friends like that. Or like, yeah.
Right. Well, for me, it was relatively easy because, like, while I was still a gross in log for a lot of high school, um, I,
I'm
I don't.
laughing because yes, so was
While I
I.
was still a gross in log through a lot of high school, one of the things that got me to soften up in my later high school experience really was the necessity of having female friends.
Hmm.
And like, so I ran the anime club in high school because, of course, I did. No one in my Roy Mustang like court, you have vice president, treasurer, secretary. No one in my court was male. It goes back to,
Hmm.
again, that female experience of it is the women in AFABs who are culture drivers. It is the female
Hmm.
fans who are doing stuff. Yeah, we had a lot of guys in the club, but the minute we wanted to start talking about, like, okay, so let's talk about how Japan doesn't like World War II, the guys would leave because all they wanted to do was watch anime. And that's, of course,
Hmm.
a gross over, simplification. And we're not saying not all men, hashtag not all men, but it was very much that experience of the culture drivers in fandom were
Hmm.
female or female assigned at birth.
Hmm. You know,
So really, yes.
no, I was just like, I just remembered because leading up to today, I've been like trying to, like I said, I was going to do some reading and I was going to do some, I didn't do half of the reading because life is terrible. However, I watched a bunch of like shorter, like short form video essays and things about, misogyny in gay spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and other things. And I can't remember which video this was right now, but I literally watched a
Mm-hmm.
video yesterday that talked about and I don't even know if this was one of the misogyny in queer spaces ones, but it was just literally what you just said, that
Mm-hmm.
women in general tend to be in control of things. Like women or AFABs tend to be the ones who organize these things, who
Yep.
are at the center for making things happen and getting discussions going, and that that has led some men to feel threatened, which
Mm-hmm.
is ironic because it's like, okay, but if you're feeling deplatformed, why aren't you participating in the conversation? Why aren't you participating in organizing the events? Like, I think this was in the context of pride events that the women typically are the
Yeah.
ones organizing what is happening.
Yeah, and it's funny to me because, like, to bring it back to the microcosm, which is fan spaces, you can see
Mm,
that a lot in like modern convention setups, especially here in America, where it is the women who are drivers
yeah.
of con prep. And there's, of course, men there,
Mm,
but they're there because they usually were grandfathered in. Like, you bought the building and there was this one man
mm,
and he has to be a part because he lives in the walls.
mm.
But all the people making choices were women. And I
Yeah.
remember this conversation happening around the cosplay is not consent era, where men felt like they were being decentralized in
Mm.
conventions. And it's like, because we won't accept assault, you feel decentered.
Right.
Because we said assault isn't okay,
Mm.
you think that we are not centering your male experience.
Yeah, and I think that that is like, and that is true for so many aspects, but keeping it to, like the fandom experience and the fandom spaces and the cultural, like when I say cultural, like pop culture,
Yeah.
I work with cultural events at the library as well, and we have the same problem as we do in the con spaces, where we need more diversity, as in we need more male voices, and we
We do.
try to cater to a more male audience at the library. We try to bring in the
Mm-hmm.
young men, but we
Mm-hmm.
can't. They don't want to organize, they don't want to attend the events, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
how are we gonna bring them? And then you see this, the discussions that are happening. There's a male loneliness epidemic. There's the whole,
Right.
men are feeling decentralized, and it's like, okay, but isn't that because you've gotten complacent? Like, I mean, that is oversimplification, but like,
Yeah.
there's this complacency that you're so used to like having everything, and when it feels like people start talking over you,
Yeah.
then you feel like they are taking something away from you because you're not at the center, but then you're not participating in the conversation. I'm like, but we want you to help, like we want you to be part of the crew,
Exactly. Like I
you
have that
know
all the time as a panelist where it's like, well, what
yeah,
makes you qualified to run this panel? Well, I applied.
right.
I filled out the form and you
fill out
didn't.
the fill out the form, listen my qualifications,
Like I got that so much. Like, well, what makes you qualified to run this panel? Well, one of
mm,
us filled out the Google form
right. and
and
i
the
and i
other didn't.
and I think that again, I'm not saying, because I know so many men, nerdy and otherwise, who do the most, like all the
Mm-hmm.
time, who
For
are like
sure.
literally doing a lot of great things, and who are activists and who are doing things. But there's also, I think that for a lot of women, AFABs, etc., that we are so used to having to take that bull by the horn and like doing it ourselves,
Sc-
because you
screams in Black Woman.
yeah, like you just have to do the thing, because if you don't do it, it's not getting done. So you get used to putting yourself in the
Yeah.
center, and just, okay, I guess I'll be the face of this movement, I guess.
Absolute Black woman screaming.
Right.
Like, well, I guess I have to fix the entire society.
But you can't, because for some reason white women decided to get in the way.
I was just talking to my hairstylist about this because we have like very intense dialectics while I'm getting my hair done.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, I'm not surprised, but that doesn't make me any less disappointed. But it's interesting to me that like the recipe to fix a lot of misogyny, we said it's hard to fix. Really, it's not. The answer is spend time with women.
Listen to women,
Listen to women.
and
It's yes.
or just like, okay, there's been, and I mean, this isn't anything new, but we've had in the past couple of weeks here
Hmm.
in Norway, we've had some young men, young white, right wing, right leaning men,
Yes.
writing in the newspapers about how they are being oppressed.
Oh.
And it's like, you're not being oppressed. And then there was this guy, like a young guy, who wrote a think piece on this, and then a female student replied and was like, "You're not being oppressed because this, like, this is
Mhm.
oppression. What you're listing is not oppression." And then another
Mhm.
guy responded to the both of them and was like, "Young men are not being repressed, they're being ignored," which I think maybe makes more sense. I didn't actually read it, but yeah, it's like the point is,
Women
where was I going with
do
this?
everything.
Right, which again, misogyny, because the second shift and all that. But I think, yeah, I think it's like you're feeling oppressed because someone, like, it's the whole thing, whereas like
Right.
you're not being oppressed, you feel like you're being pushed aside, or like you are getting fewer rights or fewer
Yeah. Because you
opportunities.
aren't being centered.
Yeah, and that's not the same as being oppressed. That is
It's
not.
not.
And
Those are not
again,
the same
you can
things.
you can also center yourself by entering the chat. Like,
I think like
are, yeah,
yeah, that's huge. That's a huge part of it. Is that like yeah, I remember that like era of convention culture where it's like males don't matter anymore. Our experience isn't being listened to. It's like because we asked to not be assaulted. That's
hmm
what we did. We didn't say no men allowed. We didn't say we're making male and female only conventions. We didn't say that. We said please stop assaulting us.
right.
That's all we said.
And it's like, I don't know, maybe this might be like an exclusively like Nordic problem, but like we have this thing, like, ever since I was a child, we had this imbalance, in the classroom when we were in elementary school and all the way through school, that the girls were more likely to volunteer to do things. The girls were more likely to put up their hand and answer questions, etc., and the boys didn't, and the teachers didn't know how to get the boys to engage with the
Mm-hmm.
material. And then now I am on the board of this con, and it's like the same thing. It's not that we don't have male cosplayers, but it's like, why are they not volunteering?
Right.
Why is it so hard to find someone to be a judge or do a panel, like, comparatively?
Yeah.
Why? Is this a Norwegian thing, or is this like a
No, no, it's not because like I know some pretty famous male cosplayers, but like they're the kind of male cosplayer that, as we would say in the business, were written by women.
hmm,
They're men, but they were clearly written by women. They were the ones that watched Gravitation because it was an easy way to get women. Like it's just gay enough to where I can tune it out. But I know if I cosplay Yuki Eri, I'm getting all the ladies in
I still
2005.
I still think everyone should watch Gravitation for a lot of reasons, but like, even if you're not in it for the gay, which shame on you, the music is great,
Gravitation to pick up chicks is the ultimate power move.
honestly.
That's such a big move. Gravitation to pick up
Uh,
women. But like there's the inoculation for misogyny is talking to women. As a teacher, I can confirm this is very much accurate in the schools I work at. It is even more accurate in groups where there's a lot of male students. Yeah, men don't want to organize and do stuff.
but it's
Like
uh,
like we're having that thing right now with Stonewall because Trump removed the queer designation from Stonewall
I
because
can't
it's just
live anymore. Like, okay.
it was just a chill, fun hotel. Don't worry about it. It's just a chill, fun old hotel. Nothing
hmm
happened. But people have been carrying bricks, which is awesome.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it's like that history often gets rewritten to centralize gay white men
Mm.
when the first brick throwers were trans women of color. But gay white men, especially, rewrite and re romanticize the story of Stonewall as like Marsha P. Johnson was there in a corner, and it was this village people of white men that all rose up to protect her. Like
I think that the village people are now invalid in queer
they are,
spaces
they
based
are
on recent
based on
history,
recent
but
statements. Yes.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like there's the cure. It's involving and talking to women. I want to talk about because we've spent a lot of time talking about men, and of course we have to do our hashtag not all men. We do have
I
to talk
love
about
men. Like, honestly. It may not sound like it, but I do love a lot of men.
Well, and I think like we have to talk about misandry as a response to misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that don't know, misandry is hating of men. But as Corolla so eloquently put in the episode, is that because the lens for so long has been on men, or specifically on a very certain type of man, misandry can never and will never feel the same
Mm.
as misogyny.
Mm.
That does not mean that it does not have issues. That does not mean that it is entirely victimless. As we mentioned in the episode, misandry is part of the reason why male sexual assault victims are ignored, but also the reason behind that deeper is misogyny. The misandry
Mm-hmm.
doesn't help. The deeper reason is
No.
misogyny.
And it's like I saw this post yesterday that was like, it was a screenshot on Facebook, so it's probably originally from another,
Reddit.
somewhere else. Yeah, Reddit or like Tumblr or something. But it was just like very eloquently putting how yes, misandry is a problem, but it's not usually misandry that's hurting men. It is misogyny because exactly as we've talked about, because femininity is seen as such a negative thing. Like men hate on women for being feminine while also wanting them to be feminine, but then femininity in a man is seen as so harmful, so it's such a degenerative trait,
Mm-hmm.
almost, that it's like you can't wear that color, you can't speak like that. Fellas, is it gay to hug your wife? Fellas, is it gay to carry an umbrella? All of these things. And so men are more hurt by misogyny than by misandry because for some reason the world just really hates feminine traits.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that I have a bunch of notes on this regarding BL that I will probably get to, but also just like, but yes, that doesn't mean that misandry isn't the problem, because like we talked about in the main episode, I don't think that it's okay, to be like, if a man is, I don't care, like, I don't think, like, okay, I have to be careful because I get all fired up and then I'll say something in the wrong way and we're live on the internet and I'll, shoot myself in the leg. But it's like, I don't think, like I said, I definitely think that there are a lot of, like, there's a mental health crisis affecting men. And so I'm not here to say that it's not real, that a lot of men are feeling, are feeling depressed, are feeling lonely, but like you have to also look at why are they feeling lonely, like
Exactly.
if you shoot yourself in the foot and then you're like, this is your fault, and you can't see how this is, like, the structures that are in place that have made this happen. If you are out there, like if you are sending, like I talked about this with my friend last Monday, like if I tell you that I only like you as a friend after you confess your love to me, yes, things might get awkward. I get it. If you don't want to like hang out with me immediately after that, I might not want that either. But if you immediately start going, oh, she friend zoned me, like my friendship is the worst thing that's ever happened to you because I didn't want to have sex with you, then you're the problem.
That's the problem.
Not, like, exactly. But it's like, but I don't think it's right if we as women or AFABs or anyone really, like if a guy is talking about his struggles openly, I don't think it is okay to hate on men in his comment section, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think that solves anything. I think no one needs to be openly hateful to one another over these things, I think.
No, I totally agree. I remember I was at work and one of the guys who works, he's like the desk opposite of me. We were talking about like all the national observances because Google is a bootlicker and is removing them all from calendars. And we were talking, I think, about like Black History Month or one of the ones, and it's like, oh well, yeah, and it's also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but no one talks about that. And it's like, hold on, no, we've been trying to get you to talk about it for checks notes hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to talk about it.
It's kind of like that thing, where they're like, oh, here we are, it's International Men's Day in November. No one is doing anything. And it's like, okay, but the women are the one organizing International Women's Day, do you
Right.
expect the women to organize International Men's Day? Like, I observe, I tell the guys in my life I appreciate them. I talk about, the issues that men are facing, you know, on that day.
Yes.
But you
At the
women
risk
have
of
had to fight every step of the way and organize these things themselves.
correct, like, at the risk of sounding infantilizing, I'm just imagining like Whitman organizing men's National Men's Day. It's like, okay, guys, your play date's ready. There's
Yeah,
cookies,
right.
soda. Now, no one's up past 9 p.m. We all have to go home. Like, I don't mean to.
I just no, and it's like, and I think that that is extra funny because coming from Scandinavia, where our
Yeah.
children have a lot of freedom, we
Yes.
don't do play dates. Like for us, when we grow up and we watch American TV series and we see the moms bringing the children, like making play dates, we didn't do that. We just like our parents just kicked us out and went, come home whenever the sun sets, and we would go and find each other, or we would organize it ourselves. So I'm used to a culture of like organizing things myself, both as a Norwegian and as a woman.
Valid point.
Mm,
But also, I have more thoughts about this that cannot be condensed on a brain that is running on cough medicine.
great.
It's like correct, but also no.
I
And I
mean,
don't.
yeah,
Okay, yeah. So you solved the issue in the next statement. Not that that takes away her importance. I think that's the big thing.
right.
So when I say white men especially like to decenter her, that's exactly what I mean. Is going, oh well, actually she did this. Doesn't mean she's any less important. Like, well, no, you said the thing already once, and now, like, I think that's exactly what I'm talking about because I see that a lot in queer spaces. Is like that. Well, actually,
Mhm.
I mean, I see that in every space. I'm a black woman with a degree. I see that in every space. But like it's that well actually that I think is part of the issue of decentering and then being surprised when those spaces become even more inclusively black and brown.
Mm,
Because we're having that issue right now, especially post Trump, that a lot of leftist spaces are becoming more fragmented. So it used to be like, oh, all the leftists could kind of hang out. No, black leftists are over here, Hispanic leftists are over here, white leftists are over here. And that's in response to mistreatment and that, well, actually, kind of conversation.
mm.
Is that, okay, well, if y'all aren't going to listen to us, we're going to talk to each other and figure out some tangible strategies because this shit ain't working. But back to play dates, I think that's fascinating because the idea of just like letting your child run loose. Um, we had a huge stranger danger thing here in the U.S.
Mm.
Um, the Amber Alert, the little girl who went missing,
Yeah.
she actually was from the city I was born in.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
So like that is a very recent cultural touchstone. So the
Mm.
idea of just like letting your children or your men
Oh, or
just
your men.
just frolic freely sounds dangerous, and I'm unwilling to engage with that narrative.
Yeah, but I mean, I do agree to a certain extent because I think that when we are, and I mean, again, this is a societal issue. Like misogyny is a societal issue.
It is.
The infantilization of men is a societal issue because, like I've said a million times before, why is it, how do you expect, I mean, I don't know, like I expect people to mature and grow and learn things, I guess, because that's what I did. But how can we expect young men to, never get reprimanded? They are pulling a little girl's hair, they're pulling down her skirt, whatever, and it's like, boys will be boys, boys will be boys, boys will be boys. And then suddenly they're 18 and they can get punished, but they've never had repercussions for their actions. How do you
Mhm.
expect them? Which makes me think, if we're gonna if we as a society are gonna infantilize men to the point where they can't do anything themselves, maybe they shouldn't be left unsupervised, because this is how, I don't know, the first thing that popped into my head was like, You know the amount, maybe you don't have this problem, but we have this problem where the amount of accidents on New Year's Eve because of young drunk men who are playing with fireworks and ending up in the
Mhm.
ER,
Mhm.
that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, and I think like to tailor it back down to like, the fujin experience, I talked about leftist groups becoming more insular. That sort of infighting is one of the big reasons why we have things like Black Fujo Twitter and
Mm,
like these different groups breaking apart because we couldn't rely on the majority to keep us safe. Yes, we had larger like Fujo and Fujin Twitter, but
mm.
we couldn't rely on everyone in that space to protect us.
I mean, yeah, which, isn't really all that strange considering
No, it's not.
we are still in a world where a lot of people, like you mentioned in the main episode as well, a lot
Mhm.
of people are like, oh, but you're black. You can't like this stuff. And
Exactly.
it's like, I mean, clearly they're not ready for this conversation if you're not ready to accept that black people have been part of fandom since, forever.
Checks notes ever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think like that's the big thing because you hear that a lot from like, especially like that. There's a very certain kind of like white anime fan who is always surprised that like black fans have like gone off on their own to do something else. And it's
Mm.
like, we're all family here. Like, this ain't Olive Garden. No, we're not.
I mean, no, we're not all family
This is,
because I don't know if you've noticed, but we are in hell.
yeah,
And
this is not an Olive
people
Garden.
people are sending each other death threats over fictional characters. We are not a family.
People
We're
are
not doing it.
calling other people's jobs and saying they're pedos for liking fictional characters. We are
I
not
saw
like no, we are not all friends here.
no, and like literally like yesterday I saw that, there was someone tweeting about being horrified about the amount of wait, I'm just reading the comment. Hmm.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, no, going just keeping the train of thought rolling before I
Hmm.
forget it. But like,
Please.
there was a tweet yesterday because apparently I don't know if there's been an uptick or if people have just now noticed that there's a lot of wincest in the supernatural fandom, and I've seen so many quote tweets in the last
What?
24 hours from people who, yeah, like because apparently the antis are upset that people are shipping the Winchesters and the Winchesters anyway. And people are like quote tweeting with facts about how well this is part of the reason that AO3 got started actually because
Yeah.
the creators wanted to freely ship Wincest. And people, and it's so funny, and I'm like, of course we're not family, we are still here. Like, people are now upset at the founders of AO3.
I also love that out of all the bricks you can pull from Supernatural, it's the Wincest that's the problem. We were just talking about Winchester nonsense in Discord.
Of course.
Well, I was looking at stock photos and like one of my clients is funeral industry because this screams funeral professional. Um, and I had to look up like stock photos in cemeteries. And of course, like most free stock photos of cemeteries are like some fucking edgelord with a camera. And it's just like some random guy LARPing the crow in a
Yeah.
public cemetery. Um, they were the main ship until they were dethroned by Destiel.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I don't go here. Thank God. This is not. But that's what I thought. It was
I
like
can
it
make
was
you go here.
always. No, I don't wanna. Thank you
No,
very
I can.
much. I'm
You
fine.
mean you?
No,
In theory, you did make me watch Ken Porsche. So in theory,
listen. You
I am,
okay? First of all, you watched one out
and
of
I
14
and I
episodes.
think
There are
I am
seven.
entitled.
Yeah, but there are
I
7,000 episodes of Supernatural, and I
I
have in
never
fact
said
watched. I watched the first one actually
okay.
when it
I
first
never
aired.
said which episode I would like for you to watch, and I certainly didn't put you under the obligation of watching all of them. I
Well,
just
thank
think
God.
I just think that
Well,
that means at a certain point, in the truest Crowley that I am of making deals, that I am now owed reciprocally the
Is
opportunity to
this
show you where I'm from.
okay? Well, I mean, technically, this is up to our patrons because this was why you had to watch the first episode of Kimport. But sure, I'll watch an episode. It would actually be even funnier if you just took, if I just got like just completely out of context, just choose one. I would,
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
I
And
was just
yes,
like,
we are a married couple.
we are this arranged podcast marriage is
Mom and dad are fighting about TV shows again.
as you can tell, I have no rights in this relationship.
Come the fuck on. Come the fuck on.
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
It's the Prozac.
It's Prozac. There's too much Prozac in this system.
Oh my goodness. But
even though my dose is lower than yours.
your dose is so much lower than mine. But I think it's fascinating, to kind of put a bow on misandry, which sounds more infantilizing. We're gonna make misandry all pretty and
well,
like
I mean, they're
yes.
doing it to misogyny.
I mean, yeah, like we have girl boss to misogyny. I guess we can boy failure misandry. It's funny. Bakrola is y'all's mom, even though it makes her uncomfortable whenever I say it.
Ew, I don't want to be anyone's mom. It physically makes my skin crawl.
I know. Who are we kidding? Mom and dad fighting is the TV show. Just imagining our 50s household and they're just like children on the floor playing, I don't know what they played in the 50s, with their fucking uranium playset. A fucking bridge, or with their like atomic playset, and it's just all radioactive materials. And it's like,
That
mom and
sounds
dad
about
are
right.
fighting. There were so many radioactive playsets for children.
I mean, technically, there still are, because now everyone's buying children's toys off of Temu, and look how that's turning out.
But like, they were intentionally so like, oh, your child can be the next rocket scientist. Relive the passions of World War II with this atomic playset.
Your child is going to die. They will not become a scientist, actually. They will die from uranium poisoning. Is that a thing?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
I hate that accent. Out of all the accents I've done, that was my least favorite. Where I sound like fucking Tom Buchanan from The Great Gatsby. That is, out of all the voices I've done, that is my least favorite. I do like the televangelist voice. That was fun.
No, that was extremely unsettling. Never do that again. Thank you very much.
Out of all of the unhinged things I've said and done in our multi-year partnership, the televangelist voice was where you draw the line.
It made me very uncomfortable, okay?
That it
was very unsettling.
Out of all of the insane things I have said and done on this here free internet, pretending to be a televangelist is the thing that keeps Corolla up at night. I love it.
Yeah, that and my allergies.
I mean, yes. But to put a bow on misandry, I think the issue is that it's a very, very tempting response to all the misogyny. And I can see why especially a lot of younger feminists really enjoy it. It's very tempting. It's like candy. It feels deserved sometimes. It's like, well, after all we've been through, we deserve to take men down a peg. And I know that especially like in like POC circles, misandry runs rampant because like, well, we already have misogyny, and then we have the race-specific misogyny, and then we have all of this stuff. The least we can do is make fun of men. It's owed to us.
Yeah. No, but I get it. Like
I do too.
It's like it's complicated because like I said, like I don't think like pitting the genders against one another, like ultimately, like look at Korea, like that's not
It's not the
It's not
solution.
helping anyone.
No.
No, but I absolutely get it, because if you, when you are in an environment where you are constantly being put down and
Mm-hmm.
challenged and stepped
Mm-hmm.
on and discriminated against,
Mm-hmm.
you will gloat a little when they get what's
Yeah.
coming to them. I mean, that's why I'm watching all of these leopards are eating my face videos, because like, and again, like, I don't like, yes, I want you to suffer for your fucking choices. Like, you voted
Mm-hmm.
for this. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me while I gloat that you get what's coming to you. But then a lot of other people are affected by this who did not deserve this, and these people have children, and those children definitely didn't vote for this. And so
Yeah.
like, even if I'm gloating over like that one specific gross person getting, a face full of "I told you so," I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to hate on the other people who are affected by this. But it's just it's a coping mechanism.
It is. I think misandry as coping mechanism is a huge part of it. Is so like I know I had to deal with this in therapy that like one of the reasons I'm hyper independent is because I was constantly let down as a child.
Mm,
And misandry kind of feels like that sometimes. So like of course we make misandrous jokes. Men, and again, hashtag not all men, but men, monolith,
mm,
have been nothing but disappointing in society. So
mm.
yeah, like I feel sometimes I just feel like, oh, I can have a little misandry as a treat. I've earned it for everything I've been through. I've earned a
Mm.
little misandry as a treat. You know, just like Chapel Row and blaring in the background, and gonna wear a shirt that is like snark. I call it sparkle misandry. That like thing that
Mm.
Chapel Rowan and like other young feminists do, where it's like, oh, men are so gross. It's like, well, yeah, but they've also been told it's gay if they wash their own ass. So like,
Yeah.
that's kind of that's kind of a societal issue.
And it's like, and it's like, that's what I mean. Like, I don't hate men. I hate what men have become. I hate
Yeah,
what society has done to men,
yeah,
and the fact that they think that this is how it needs to be. I
exactly.
think it's just like, can we just save men from themselves for everybody's sake? Because
I mean,
like, this is,
ContraPoints can only do so much.
I know.
She's tired. That's why she hasn't made a video in
Yeah,
forever.
like, she's like carrying everything on her own shoulders at this point. Like, can we
Her
save her?
her beautiful shoulders.
Mm,
Just
mm.
stunning woman.
Wonderful
Absolutely
shoulders.
stunning woman.
Yeah,
Ugh.
queen.
Okay, I know she's chronically online, so if she ever hears this,
We love you, ContraPoints.
we love you,
Please,
Natalie. Please.
please.
Um,
You're our
okay,
only hope. The Yes, the
this is
gay
the
Obi-Wan
reminder.
Kenobi.
Yeah, okay, Obi-Wan didn't do anything.
No, but save us. You're our only hope. Like, I
Oh,
was
okay.
just,
I
yeah.
was like, I'm sorry. This is where I'm going to apply my Star Wars. Well, actually, Obi-Wan is fucking useless.
Yeah, but I'm just referencing the quote.
No,
I'm not.
you're
Yeah.
totally fine. Um, Also, this is the point of the episode, the live episode, where we say if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the episode, please feel free to leave them in chat and we will address them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mm, yes.
This is what you guys get, considering that I am 90% cough medicine.
Sounds great.
I am 90% cough medicine.
Oh my god, what? You're
And
also still frozen, by the way. So this is
I
incredibly fascinating.
can't help you, woman. He is useless. He's, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
but I
also,
mean, I,
yes.
I will admit, I'm not a big Star Wars buff. I can barely remember anything, but I also cannot remember him actually doing anything. So I guess that proves the point.
So what I'm hearing is that either I need to make you watch Supernatural or Star Wars.
I've watched Star Wars.
We need to watch more Star Wars until you
No, I don't want.
understand. You have to understand the depth of my love.
But there's only so much one can do.
You sound so tired. We haven't even done anything.
You had no idea. Like, okay, but seriously, I don't know what is wrong with this month. It's like February is the shortest month, like literally. And I have so many things, and I don't understand what forces I have offended to make literally everything in my life happen in February. Because like I think the only day in like the past 2 weeks where nothing was happening was yesterday, and that was simply because
Mhm.
I said no to two things. And then next weekend I think I don't have any plans on Saturday. But it's like it's to the point where I was on my way to a meeting and I got a text message because I have this one fucked up toenail. So I have to see a foot therapist every 6 months for my fucked up toenail. And I get a text message as I am heading to a meeting telling me that I now have a dentist appointment right after my foot therapy appointment, like on the same day, within the same hour. I'm like, well, I would move it, but there's nowhere to move it to. So, my life is great. I am very tired.
Curl, I'm going to send you a picture of my planner
No.
just so I can watch you stress out. Okay, so this is a valid point. The online left is bad about articulating sexism and heterosexism. I'm not quite sure if I'm willing to co-sign the word victimizes cis men, but that's just me. Um, I think the big thing is again, it's that knee-jerk reaction, like I mentioned, that after everything so many of us go through, that it is very easy to attack the monolith. It is very easy knowing that out of all the impotent, miserable things that we can try to gain some semblance of power, that attacking the cultural and physical monolith is there.
Mm.
And it is also by dismantling as much of that monolith as possible that we moved forward towards not just equality but equity. I watch a lot of like body cam footage because even though I'm violently ACAB, body cams like simulate the part of my ADHD brain that it's like, oh, there's noise, yay. Oh, so even though I hate cops, I will listen to car crashes and body cam footage. And one of the big things I've taken away with body cam footage is that body cam footage pantomimes the idea of police racial equality. Is especially like big body cam channels, they go very far out of their way to like not show a majority any one type of case because they could easily be accused of racism. This happens to a lot of true crime channels where it's like, hey, maybe let's stop talking about disenfranchised black women, please. But these get to pantomime some kind of racial equality in the world. But there's still a massive divide in how two individuals from different races are treated. You can't fake that equity. You can't fake that equality by, moneyballing the ROI, which is a phrase I took from the worst man in, well, I can't say he's the worst man in Texas because there's like five others on top of him, but one of the worst men in Texas.
On top of him, like how?
Like the tier list of worst men.
Okay, so not in like even not even in a fun way. Got it.
I've met him.
Oh,
He's not. Kurla, grab a seat. I would like to tell you about one of the worst men in the entire city of San Antonio. His name is Brad Parscale.
okay.
Brad Brad Parscale used to run an ad agency here in San Antonio, uh, and he became Trump's digital guy. Like all those gross like internet ads and like Facebook campaigns and everything. That was all Brad Parscale.
Hmm.
So he went from being this like super respected, like, oh, he's like an internet pioneer, to like, look at this fucking traitor. He got bought out of his own company. And now no one wants him back because he lives in a city called San Antonio.
Where you live?
Now no one wants him back and he's like, "But why? What did I do, guys?"
Ah, the consequences of your own actions.
Correct. Okay. We're going to talk about saving women through the power of gay shipping.
Okay.
Why do you sound like I've held you hostage? Is
I
it
don't know.
the long February again?
Yes.
So I was thinking about this, and I think it's interesting that we brought up Wincest, because I remember one of the big uh issues that Supernatural had was that they would introduce a really, really cool, like 2000s cool female character, and then they would end up either facing grievous consequences or bodily harm just for being associated with usually Dean Winchester. Like Dean Winchester definitely had the "my dick is poison" kind of thing. Like if you slept with Dean Winchester, something horrible has or will happen to you. Looking at Castiel.
Mm,
Um, so one of the big reasons why Wincest was so popular in early fandom spaces, it wasn't the lack of female characters, it was the lack of wanting to do harm unnecessarily to female characters.
mm.
Can I say all of us were altruistic in shipping Wincest? Of course not. Some people just wanted to watch the brothers kiss. But there was certainly an undercurrent of, oh, well, if we keep these two disasters together, then maybe they'll stop hurting women.
Mm.
I notice that a lot in like comic book shipping spaces, where there's been a much larger emphasis on shipping like Batman and Joker.
Mm.
Not because of the obvious homosexual overtones and undertones,
You know,
but
I
yes.
I saw a tweet like just before getting ready for the live. Unfortunately, my timeline ate it, so it went away.
Oh
And I
no.
don't know who I don't know who tweeted it, but it was someone Japanese. And they basically said that normally, like I don't have the context for this, but it does slot in nicely to this conversation, which is like normally they would, feel bad about something like this happening to someone in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. But
Mm-hmm.
then the tweet literally said, but because this is BL and they're both they're both men, I literally do not care because men are scum. And I was
It
like,
all goes back to the
this is
Sandry, doesn't
literally
it?
what you're talking about.
But like that's a thing. Like I notice I do it a lot with comic books, and not just because I like the gay. And again, like please don't read too much altruism into this. Like I'm not Our Lady of Perpetual Saving. I'm not some enlightened saint who's like, surely no one can handle how toxic Tony Stark is. I shall take him from this world and pair him with an immortal military propaganda machine.
Mm.
That's not what I'm doing. But I'd be lying if part of it wasn't because I've seen how horribly Tony treats Pepper Potts, both MCU and comics.
Mm. I mean,
So, yes.
I don't go here. I'm not
I
like
know
I've
you
seen the
don't.
movies. I'm not big on Marvel, but I
I know.
just can't get over the fact that that's her name because she sounds like a stock character. What do you mean her name is Pepper Potts?
I mean, there's also Janet Van Dyne, who gets backhanded by her husband so hard she winds up in the next comic panel.
Fantastic.
And that's why we can't have good Ant-Man movies.
Mm.
Welcome to Comics History with Amanda. Janet Van Dyne got hit so hard she ended up in the next comic book panel. And that's why we can't have good Ant-Man. But there is this like really, really interesting idea of using queer ships almost to like protect women. It's like, oh no, we've seen the depths of this crazy. I've also noticed lots of media doesn't make well-written female characters and terrible
Mm.
het romances. So I always end up more this very much so.
Yeah. We talk about this all the time. Like this is part
Constantly.
of the reason why shonen is so like shonen fandom is so fueled by Fujoshi and Fujin precisely because of this. Because the female characters aren't well rounded, they aren't fleshed out, they don't have an agency, etc. etc. The male characters are more interesting and it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to ship them because they literally care about each other. The The women are just in the
Yeah,
background.
and they've let's see, not sure if this is on topic, but I like in yaoi when
Mm,
there's supportive female friend sister, but I hate it when there's a female rival love. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I think we've both talked about this.
yeah,
I think both of us bristle when a woman enters the chat in
yeah.
yaoi.
And like I was literally like I was thinking about this earlier. I tried writing down my thoughts. As we know, I'm usually better at writing than in when I speak in person. But it's also like, yeah, trying to balance this out is difficult. But I was, because one of the things that we didn't cover in the main episode was the myth of gay men hating women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a whole thing.
It is.
And like, for instance, I watched, this is a side note, I'm getting to the point that Steven was pointing out, but I just
I'm
want to
sure you
like
will.
branch off a little, because I watched a video like last year. There's a bunch of these like Korean like sit down videos where it's like Korean people meet, you know, X for the first time, like Nordic people, or
Mm-hmm.
Muslim people or gay people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these videos that for some reason YouTube kept feeding me all of these videos every single day. It's like Jubilee, but not as um
Awful.
yeah,
Exploitative.
I listened to Matt Bernstein's podcast about Jubilee the other day, and yeah, not like that. But there was this one video that had 4 Korean LGBTQ people meeting for the first time, and it was like there was one trans woman, there was a gay man, there was a lesbian, and then there was a fourth person whose orientation and gender I don't remember. But basically, there was a moment where the gay man asked, I think that was how it went. The gay man asked the lesbian if, why do you as a lesbian hate gay men? Because I feel like I'm constantly being told we should hate each other, and I don't understand why. So, there
Mm-hmm.
was like, so he has been told that there's like this rivalry, like there's like this dislike between lesbians and gay men. And he was like, but I'm just excited to talk to you because I never get to talk to other queer people. And they were like, they all decided to go out for food after. It was really sweet. They all decided to just be friends because none of them had like other queer friends. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I thought of that as I was looking into this, because it is there. Where does this idea come from? And then in BL we see it a lot, and often when you have like BL characters who claim to hate women, it's like sometimes, a lot of the times, it's rooted in trauma. And a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time, this trauma is like, a mother who's like abusive or who abandoned them, or a lot of the time who cheated on their dad. But then sometimes the trauma is them being dumped by some girl in high school.
You can just
And
say
this,
antique bakery. That
I know, yeah, no, but there's like a bunch of these.
I know. Well,
Anti,
you can just
yes,
say Tachibana and Ono.
yeah, I know, but also like, but this, it keeps getting perpetuated by these
It does.
things. But then I'm like, because
Mm-hmm.
I was reading because I was looking into, boys love manga and beyond, where there
Mm-hmm.
actually is a chapter that discusses Fumi Yoshinaga and queering food, and that praises Fumi Yoshinaga for not usually making the women villains or non-existing people in her manga, because like they typically have more agency, and they are like, they're friends with the characters a lot of the time. But I was
Except for
thinking about,
Sakuraka.
yes, but she's different, that one. Except for Sakurako. But I was like, but then I'm like, I came across someone discussing this in regards to Thai BL. And there was a person who said, you know, a lot of this isn't necessarily so much hate of women
Mm-hmm.
as it is hate of ex-girlfriends. And
Mm-hmm.
if this had been a straight series, if this had been a straight media, then it
Mm-hmm.
would just be, some ex popping out of nowhere, and then you hate the ex because you're rooting for the main couple. But that
Mm-hmm.
makes me ask myself, okay, but why is the ex always a woman, because of
Mm-hmm.
course a lot of the time these men are bisexual or closeted or didn't know they could be attracted to men, which leads us back to the beginning of the argument, the start of the circle, which is why we hate female characters in BL, because this is how they continue to be presented.
Portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to touch on this comment really fast, and then I want to touch back. Nope, this one. Uh, Speaking of saving women, I shipped the main couple in jealousy just so the wife would be free of both of them. I wanted so badly for another female character or for me to make her happy.
Mm.
Uh, on Patreon, I just talked about Liza or Gentleman's Banners.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And like that's one of the big things that it's like, oh yeah, of course I ship the main pairing because they both deserve to be awful together
Yeah.
and leave this brilliant woman alone and stop making her life difficult. um,
Yeah.
let's see. I don't think gay men hate women, but in my experience, I've encountered a lot of gay men who feel awfully comfortable making
Mm.
possibly offensive comments to women about their appearance. I think so. I remember I talk about my experience being like in early like gay and lesbian spaces as a bisexual.
Yeah.
And I remember the big reason why neither group wanted me was that I presented as competition to both sides.
Mm.
Is that if at any time the allure of a straight passing, usually pretty femme woman was a threat to traditionally masculine lesbians, or the allure of a straight passing woman to any gay couple would
Mm.
immediately turn one of the partners bisexual or straight. Like they are only gay because they've never experienced women before, which
Yep.
we've seen in Yaoi. They're only gay because they've never once been in the same room as a woman. And the presence of a woman will turn them into like a Tex Avery wolf creature, or they're like floating on pink clouds and they're suddenly super straight. So for me, it was always framed as a competition issue.
Mm.
Also, though, I will say there are plenty of cis straight women that are terrible in queer spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like the absolute inundation and ruining of drag shows and like drag spaces because some fucking Nebraska white woman lets her daughter watch RuPaul's Drag Race and then takes her kid to some seedy, sticky floored club and is like, I don't understand why this wasn't child friendly. You're at a
Mm.
club called God's Bottom.
I think that, if like, call me old fashioned, call me, whatever, since I'm one of these people who don't drink, but like, if it is an 18 plus bar where alcohol is being is served and this is at night, that's
Not for
your
children.
cue to not bring your child.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that is that too controversial, or
No, it's not. And like there had to be several instances where like drag queens had to be like, okay, we get it. RuPaul's Drag Race is great. Still really not for kids. And you definitely can't expect every drag queen to be basically a Ru girl, which is a
Mm,
PR Barbie doll.
yeah. And it's
Except
like,
for the racist one.
but like this is such a clusterfuck,
It
because
is.
I have a whole paragraph in my notes literally about this, because again, I was delving into the
Not,
misogyny in the gay community, and
yes.
again, hatred for the feminine, like you
Mm-hmm.
have. And again, I'm not saying that this is inherently bad, but these are things that you see, like mask for mask, the explicit exclusion or belittling of feminine men or
Mm-hmm.
non-mask queer people,
Mm-hmm.
gay men feeling free to critique women's bodies or joking about, how gross women's bodies are, making
Mm-hmm.
gagging noises if they think about a vagina, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously those are, and like the idea that gay I'm gay, so if I objectify a woman, like I comment on a woman's body, I touch a woman without her permission, that's not a problem because I'm not gonna sexually assault her anyway, like that's a thing. But then on the
Corolla.
other side, huh?
No, finish.
No, but then on the other side of the coin, you have, the other thing, which is,
Mm-hmm.
where again, the woman from Nebraska bringing her child to a drag show, or the bachelorette parties at the gay bar, or I
Yeah,
want a gay best friend, like he's an accessory. Like it's such a clusterfuck
it
that
is.
it's like both of these things can be problematic. Both of them can overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to bring up that it's a clusterfuck because you're right. It's reciprocal. It's both sides. It's
Mm.
disgusting behavior on the part of women in queer male spaces because I've definitely witnessed the bachelorette party just grabbing go-go dancers, you know, just reaching.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've also been in plenty of gay spaces where it's like, well, you're not really gay, are you? Like you're just
Mm.
going through this for attention. My
Yeah.
20-year long attention phase.
Yeah, or like, and I mean, this is something that we've all faced, I think, regardless of how we express ourselves. But then, and but things like, the femme lesbian, the idea that there are no femme lesbians, like, oh, your hair's long, you can't be gay, is like, okay.
I didn't know it was that easy.
Like,
You
you
know,
look like a straight girl, okay. you know
okay. Um, but no, I've had the fun experience of experiencing gay men objectifying my body
Mm.
because I am very much in the camp of there is one thing that both gay men and all women can agree on is that breasts are great. So I've definitely been catcalled by my fair amount of gay men and
Mm.
grabbed by a fair amount of gay men. Like,
Yeah, and
huh,
and like going back to the whole, gay men as an accessory type thing, which honestly, like the pop culture of the early 2000s need to take some of the blame for this, because
they
everyone
take all
wanted
the
a gay.
blame for it.
Yeah, and everyone wanted a gay BFF. Everyone wanted, that guy from Queer Eye, Carson from Queer Eye to
They
be
all
their.
wanted a Carson Kressley, like a Pomeranian in your
Yeah,
purse.
right. Or like the, what's his name, like Stanford from Sex and the City. Like everyone wanted like the sassy black friend and the sassy gay friend. Venn diagram, you know?
Oh, is that why people like me? I'm sassy and black and sassy and gay.
Yeah, that is it. Those are your only your
Is
only
that
points.
is that the only reason I have friends?
Yeah,
That I'm both?
clearly. You
Oh,
just attracted both of those groups, and that is your entire social life now. I'm sorry.
oh
You're
no.
just a product. No, but it's like, but then and then you look at stuff like, you look at stuff like that, and I think that ends up hurting both sides, because it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because then women think gay men are some toy for them to play with, and then the
Mm-hmm.
gay men, maybe they also watch the same series, and they think that gives them, blanket
Carte blanche.
permission,
Yeah.
yeah, to just be too much. And likewise, like, there was this scene that went like, it went viral, Scum, the Norwegian TV series, like the one time we had a TV show that everyone loved. um and then
No.
they made the American version and the Spanish version and all of these
Mm-hmm.
remakes, but in I think it's season 3, centers on Isak, and he's like coming to terms with his sexuality. And there's this scene that went viral because he's talking to his roommate, who's like this
Mm-hmm.
extremely like flamboyant gay man, and Isak is like saying that, he's not that kind of gay. He's not the tights and glitter
Yeah.
pride parade kind of gay. And then Eskil sits him down and just like tears into him, like, you need to understand that even if that is not you, what these gay men have done for you, for
Yeah.
your rights, right? And it's
Right.
and it's a it's the same kind of thing. Like, not all gay men are that kind of gay man. And so of course it's okay if, not everyone wants to be greeted with a hey girl, slay queen. Not everyone is that kind of gay. And it's like, it's this, you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I get
It's like
it
a.
because that happens a lot. Like once I did find that like this memification of being queer when that happened, when RuPaul's Drag Race got really, really popular, because that was everyone's like inception point. Hold on. I was a loser in middle school, but literally the day after I came out, girls I'd never talked to on
Right.
you. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
exactly. But I remember that happening where it's like, oh my God, are you LGBT? And like finger snapping, like, do you own a fan? Do you fan clack? It's like, I own a
I don't
fan
know.
because I'm
I don't know
hot.
what
Like,
that means.
you don't know what a fan clack is? It's like the really, really
No.
obnoxious like pop of a fan.
Yeah,
It's
like
it's
yeah, it's
gentrified. It's gentrified weeb shit. I think it's very funny. But it's like, oh
um
my God, can you like do a death drop? It's like I weigh 300 pounds. I can't death drop. Like,
also, you're in your 30s. You'd
like
probably
why
break your
why do you
back.
think that just being queer means that automatically I am a drag queen?
Mhm.
I'm
So
not.
yeah, so it's it's those things where it's like people may not mean anything by it, but it can still come off
Hmm.
as extremely offensive or generalizing to the person
Hmm.
who is on the receiving end, and vice versa, which is why I'm saying this is such a clusterfuck. Like there are
It
problems
is.
on both sides here.
Right. And I think you can see a lot of that again when we talk about how we approach women in BL. Because,
Mm.
like, actually, Frosty and I were kind of talking about this in Discord, which, if you have not visited our Discord, one of the great places to hear about me writing problematic toxic yaoi and, and to hang out and get access to us. But, like, and Curl and I talked about in the main episode is that visceral reaction that we all have as older fujin
Mm-hmm.
watching something that we are told is BL, and then like on the horizon a woman shows up
Yeah.
and ruins everything.
Yeah, and it's like we said, and I think this was in the main episode. I was talking about, when I watched that Korean BL
Yeah,
earlier
we
this
did.
year, the one that yeah, and like how we're getting so much better. Like the characters
Mhm.
overall are so much more rounded. There's so
Mhm.
much more diversity in the storytelling and in the characters and in the character dynamics that you find in BL all over at this point.
Mhm.
But for
Mhm.
those of us who were there, the knee jerk reaction never leaves. It's like I
It
see a
never.
woman and I'm like, and I did look because I am terrible. I sometimes do poke my head into the Discord, but I'm just terrible at being active. But I was reading through the discussion in the episode
Mhm. Recap.
recap channel, which is great channel, and I was seeing what everyone was saying about it, and I saw you and Frosty discussing this, and I saw the discussion about writing BL, as a BL creator,
Mhm.
and choosing to not include female characters because we
Mhm.
had the impression that there can't be any women in BL.
Yeah.
and and I think that for some of us this also translates into the kind of like the saving the women, but in the sense that we just don't include them because we don't want them to be hated on.
Right. And like I realize I noticed the saving the women part a lot because
Mm.
so Corolla, our like our absolutely unrational hatred of cheating.
It's not irrational. I think it is very rational.
We get so mad when fictional men cheat. But like I
Mm.
realize I write that out of a lot of my fics. So like I had for my Jason Todd and Dick Grayson scene. Well, Dick Grayson is almost canonically always with Starfire. I intentionally write out, oh, they're in some kind of like poly open relationship
Mm.
to avoid making Dick Grayson a cheater.
Yeah, but and that makes sense because again, I haven't written fanfic in like a million years, but just as you said that, I had like a flashback because when I was
Oh, of
still
course.
writing, there were there were we were far less educated about poly relationships and open relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
things were a lot
Mm-hmm.
more centered on monogamy. And again, and
Mm-hmm.
we had good old I don't go here, but we had good old mpreg because a megaverse wasn't invented yet, like all of
No,
these
it was.
things. So so I just remember I was writing um very on brand for me, I guess. I was writing battle royal fanfic,
Of course.
and and if you know battle royal, you know that Kawada Shogo has an ex-girlfriend who, died in the previous battle royal, or like an earlier battle royal. And I was always shipping, Kawada and Kazuo because they look beautiful together. I just saw some fan art once, and my soul was sold, and I have
I
never
was
let
like,
them go.
because of who you are as a person.
Yeah, because of who I am as a person. And when I was writing, like, I would write AUs, and it's so interesting because that is literally what I would do, because again, I absolutely hate cheating, but because
Mm-hmm.
I was keeping it like semi canonical, where it's like, okay, they're in high school, which means Kawada must be dating Keiko.
Mm-hmm.
How do I deal with this? And he would always, like, I would write him as cheating on her, but I would
Mm-hmm.
always pit them against each other, because she's sweet and she's innocent and she's all of these things, and he isn't, and I would
So
be
he's the bad boy.
right. And now, as I am saying this, I'm realizing that I actually kind of did that in one of my novels as well, but for
Right.
different reasons, though. But it was the same thing. It's the moment where Yuki, because I have some bisexual characters. Yuki is a bisexual. For a brief moment, he tries to tear himself away from his extremely terrible relationship with Aki, so he starts dating a girl, and she is everything he isn't, which is why Yuki's like, I can't do this, because he's fucked in the head at this point. But it's like, I do this, and then I pit them against each other, and it kind of became this, but also because I really like volatile and terrible relationships with people who are just really bad for each other and have great sex.
Well, and like to not be that Puritan, but look at what we were reading. Look at the dust that formed us.
Mm-hmm.
It was all of that. So like, yeah, now when I have this like deep, intense hatred of cheating in relationships, fictional relationships and real ones, of course, you know, it goes back to that reflexiveness I realized was always there. I didn't have words for it until recently. The words now is that I'm trying to protect some kind of sanctity of union.
Mm.
It's why I can't ship Endeavor and Hawks. Is like, no, that's a married man. Yes, he's awful, and his wife deserves better. But unless she tragically passes away from something, or she goes off to be a lesbian somewhere else, I
Mm.
cannot see them together.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's true, because I can't even remember the title of this manga now. It came out in English a couple of years ago. It's something about the car. The no, wait, it's the the mouse. There's something about a carp on a chopping block and a mouse yearning for cheese. Someone help
I
me.
know those. I know that. I know
Yeah,
that pair of books.
and I don't like. I think I've read both of them, but everyone. Also, Hawks is dating his son. Yes, but
Fox is also committed to his son. Correct.
I was, everyone was talking about the first volume when it came out, and everyone really enjoyed it. And I just could not get past the cheating. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
viscerally disliked the main story. Yes, the cornered mouse dreams of cheese or something. Yeah. And then there's the second one, which is something about carp and chopping block. And I just yes, he is here. And I just couldn't. Like
Yeah.
you said, like with Liza Gentleman's Manners, it's kind of different, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where if the woman is a terrible person, you're just kind of like, oh well. And also, this is a BL, they're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
I will kind of allow it, but the way
Mm-hmm.
that book in particular was written, I just couldn't deal with it.
Right. Like it's so funny, and I realize how much of that is, now a response to being mistreated by society. So like I realize for me one of the biggest issues that I have with Endhawks isn't just the cheating aspect, but the idea that Endeavor could have not been abusive.
Mm.
Because you almost need him to dogmatically be abusive Because otherwise you're saying, oh, he could have been a decent person and he just wasn't.
Yeah.
If we just stop at it was always in the cards that he was going to be an abusive shitbag and he can do his bullshit redemption quest somewhere else, then at least, okay, it was determinism, it was always there. But now you're saying he could have a healthy relationship in which he does not abuse his partner, and all it takes is a blonde twink. Now I'm mad because you've made that abuse now useless. It was never for anything, but now you've stated that he could be a good person. He actively chooses every day not to be one. Every day Endeavor wakes up, he actively chooses to be the worst person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, sounds right for Inji, to be honest. But, like, I remember feeling like I was trying to get into Endhawks because, like, I feel like as much as I love Dobby Hawks, Endhawks feels like it was written for me in places because I love that horrible mountain of a man. But it's like I just can't get over the idea of like, oh, so he could be a loving partner. He had that in him. He just wasn't. And I have a deep problem with that. But yeah, I think what's fascinating about it is how much of that is like written into like the older Fujin experience is that like,
Yeah.
you know, we're used to seeing a female character and it's like, oh, well, she's here to ruin everything.
Yeah, and again, I have said this so many times. You also have to remember if you were a Fujin in the early 2000s who were watching live action things, you need to understand, if you were not there, that these live actions were giving us the smallest of crumbs. Like, these characters would maybe kiss. There were no, like, there are a couple of films from the early 2000s that I watched some scenes of religiously because they had sex in them, and it is so, like, suggested. There's no, like, I was rewatching some of my favorite scenes from a couple of my favorite BL series yesterday, and like we have people like literally like they're eating each other's faces, they're showing as much skin as they humanly can without without it being pornographic. Like, this is how far we've come. But in the early 2000s, you would have a BL movie which would usually have a love triangle, and there would always be two guys and a girl, and the girl would get more attention. Like, her predicament, being in love with a gay guy or being in love with the same guy as her brother or her friend or whatever, would take up more of the 60 minutes. These films were never longer than maybe 70 minutes total. Like, they were usually between 50 and 70 minutes. They are incredibly short, and you are putting the main focus on a female character in a story that's supposed to be about two boys being in love. And when you grow up with that, you become extremely guarded. Like, oh, there's a female character. Well, I guess I'm not going to see the two male characters interact at all. Like, it's just...
He's here to ruin everything.
It's just something that we got so used to seeing it.
And how much of it also is framing? Because, like, I think very much about Twittering Birds Never Fly with, like, Kageyama and Yashiro being in school, where, like, they have, like, this weird situationship for a little while, and then eventually, like, Kageyama realizes, oh, Yashiro's fucked. Like, he's not okay, and he's only going to get worse, and I'd like to get out of this. And, like, there's a scene where they're, like, all, like, in a hallway together, and Kageyama's, like, talking to a girl, and, like, it just breaks Yashiro's heart. Like, that's, like, probably the first guy he's ever, like, actually loved, because he'd been nothing but abused by men and women his entire life. And, like, the framing of that scene was so powerful that it's like, oh, it's not that girl we should be upset about. It's Kageyama. Kageyama's the one that said, I'm not going to keep doing this because I see how broken you are and you're going to kill us all. But your idea is to be mad at the girl. The girl is the one who ruined it.
And again, like we said in the main episode, internalized misogyny and internalized homophobia go hand in hand.
They do.
And in BL, it was, it has been this thing where, because, again, we talked about this, BL derives from shoujo. And if
Yes.
there is one thing shoujo characters do not know how to do, it is communicate.
Communicate.
Yeah. If they
Communicate.
see, like, you see your significant other or your love interest interacting with someone else, do you go up to them and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Or who is this? Could you introduce me? No. You freak the fuck out. You spiral into some internal, like, this internal monologue hell where you're convinced that you're being cheated on,
And then you do
whatever.
a non-con later.
Yeah. And if you are a BL, and again, because this is very important, again, a lot of BL characters, especially historically speaking, do not identify as gay. A lot of these characters, and again, they're not supposed to represent real life gay men or even like real life people. They are fictional fantasy figures, like fantasy
Correct.
creatures created for your pleasure. So a lot of the early charm, so to say, of early BL in particular is the whole, very much now disliked by many. Yes, it's literally my least favorite trope. No, but it's like the often disliked gay only for you trope. Like, I know that a lot of people think that it's, a lot of people think it's very cute. Like, you're
I
in
am
love
not
with
one of
like
those
this
people.
person. Yeah, for me it depends a lot on the characterization, like on the
Okay, valid.
and on the relationship as a whole. But a lot of BL is founded on this, right? A guy who thought that he was straight, and then he just meets this one guy and he falls head over heels for him, whatever. And but the problem with this is
Mhm.
that regardless of if it is one of those gay only for you, or the character is bisexual, or the character is, whatever, is that there's always the moment when he thinks his partner is cheating, but it's always with a woman. And it's
Yes.
always a cousin or a coworker or a
It's always the
sister.
stupidest fucking plot
And
contrivance.
it's like, this could have been fixed if you had communicated. And so we as readers who have read five, no, we don't. I have none of those.
I was about to say, I don't. That's a very sweet generalization. We still don't have communication in our stories.
I have tried, but then I write Noah, and he uh is useless. So there's that. No, but it's like we are so damaged because when you have been in the game as long as the two of us, and you've read 7,000 BL mangas, you know where this is going. Your
Yeah, like it.
frustration at the upcoming convoluted no communication storyline,
Right.
you have to put that anger somewhere, so you put it on the woman. Like, if she hadn't appeared.
Right. Well, no, and I remember that, like, especially in Twittering Birds, because it's like, it is Kageyama who is going out of his way to be like, no, Yashiro, I will not keep feeling you up in the nurse's office.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then they pan over, he's just like talking to a girl, and it's like, that fucking bitch.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
no, she didn't do anything.
like, so much of the time, it's not necessarily that I put the hate on the character. It's just that I know where the situation is going. And so
Right.
just seeing the female character sends me spiraling. Not because I hate her, not because I have grown up a lot. I don't necessarily blame her anymore. But the moment I see a female character in that situation, I'm like, oh God, no, not this again.
Yeah.
And she becomes like this trigger.
It really does. Like, so there's like an evolutionary reason why a lot of people have a fear of large birds. It's because large birds hunted our pre-human ancestors.
There was a child. There was a
The Tongcha?
2-year-old. No, there was a 2-year-old in Norway just last year who was picked up by an eagle. And they had to put the eagle down because it kept attacking people, but it literally stole a 2-year-old. So,
Why didn't I get that in my newsfeed? What the fuck?
I don't know. I should have said. I don't understand. I thought I'd sent it to you. No, it was
that is such a me story. Why am I just not hearing about
I will
this?
find some stuff for you. But they found out that eagle there was something wrong with it because it was just
You
not having a great time. It
did
was
not say
terrible.
go Eagle.
If
We are
this is
team
your
we're team Eagle on this
oh
podcast.
god, but it's
But
so funny
no.
because it's like, just as a side note, this has nothing to do with anything, but there is like almost like an, it's not an urban legend because this was in the countryside, but there is a story that's going around in Norway, like a myth about a child who was taken by an eagle once, and everyone's like, there's like a bunch of people have tried to look into this and like, is it true? Could it, and they've like done like scientific tests to find out if this could actually be like, if this child was actually abducted by an eagle. But then last year, this new eagle just swooped in and decided to prove it itself. So now we know it is actually
I was
possible because it
I was
happened
going to talk
again.
I was going to talk about evolutionary biology, and Corolla's over here. Oh yeah, Eagles just taking kids now.
Eagles in Norway have had enough, and they're just like kidnapping children. Um,
Also has a toddler teacher. Could you imagine just like taking your kids out to play, and then just like a menacing group of eagles?
can I just point out that in Norway we have like a lot of like, we have so much focus on wilderness and like being out in the forest, and all of these kindergartens just like going up the mountains all the time.
Well, apparently your
Terrible.
wilderness training doesn't cover what to do in the case of a fucking eagle.
Hmm.
Have you seen those little like spike suits you can get for animals so they aren't attacked by coyotes and hawks? Can we
Yes,
just get that for children?
I want that for me because the seagulls, like,
But I was saying before Corolla made me
sorry.
realize, oh yeah, eagles do still attack people. Well, like we have in our in our epigenetics, in our cultural and mental heritage, that there was a time when eagles were predators and apparently still are. Um, so like we as old Fujin have over years of trial and error have been shown if a woman appears, she's here to ruin everything.
Yeah.
So when that doesn't happen, sometimes we don't know what to do with it. I know for me, it's been a lot of like using my OCs and like my female characters to aid and abet the gay.
Yeah, same.
I've been doing a lot of that recently, where like I'll have an OC stand in that's like, oh yeah, you should go talk to him or something like that.
Mm.
Like where it's now, instead of that character being an OC designed usually to impede the gay ship, it's now someone pushing the gay ship along.
Yeah.
Or in this case, someone sending Wolfwood to his inevitable demise by hooking up with knives.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like a good idea on paper, right? He's
Yeah.
hot enough. No one could know that he'd be terrible.
No.
It is. It's very Pavlovian, where it's like we've been shown over and over
Yeah.
again that like this silhouette means, oh, the gay is done.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, like we're kind of traumatized, and it's so interesting that we're in our 30s now, and still that knee jerk reaction is there.
Because it was so present in our formative Fujin
Yeah.
years, and then it went hand in hand with the "I'm not gay, you're a man" trope. And if you were really lucky, you would get both of these in the
You
same
would get both at the
series.
same time.
And I just,
Where it's like, I
I,
slept with this woman to prove how straight I am.
hmm,
But I think also, and I mentioned this during the episode, I wonder how much of it also is it breaks the illusion for those of us who were trying to self insert our own queer happiness into this story.
that wasn't me, but
Okay, Corolla. Well,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm coming clean. I wasn't that noble. I just wanted to see the boys kiss.
I mean, I don't think I was ever that noble, like consciously, but like in hindsight, I do realize some of it is a little bit like, oh, I really wanted them to be okay
Hmm.
because them being okay means that I have a chance.
But I also wasn't, I was straight passing at the time, and even
Yes.
though I wasn't like, I discovered that I wasn't straight when I was around 14, I was still in a straight passing relationship. I had a boyfriend, so it didn't feel, I guess it didn't feel relevant.
Yeah, and I mean, similarly, like I was pretty straight passing until I became a weird Quentin Tarantino incel and started focusing on dating women. And then I stopped
Don't,
doing that.
don't put it like that.
Corolla, it's a journey that every man must endure.
Yeah, I
Where you
guess.
become a weird Quentin Tarantino incel. And it's very effective. Women did sleep with me. I don't know why.
I mean, who doesn't love a good Tarantino movie?
But I think it's so interesting that, like, yeah, like you can see those like evolutionary scars like still in our writing.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell, like, oh, this is an older Fujin work because of how far we go out of our way to either exclude women entirely or to find the most charitable way to be like, well, we broke up over summer vacation off screen,
Mm-hmm.
and then she went to a different school, and we never have to see or think about her again.
Yeah, and yeah.
I also had internal misogyny because I wasn't comfortable in my gender identity or sexuality. Oddly enough, BL actually helped. Exactly, like for some of us,
The
it was,
pipeline.
yeah, the pipeline. But for some of us, it was like, oh, if these two toxic fictional men can make it, maybe I can also kiss that girl in the Hot Topic changing room.
Mm. Mm. I guess.
The amount of people I had to stop from having sex in the Hot Topic changing rooms. Please do not have sex in the changing rooms.
I will say I never have done it. I absolutely have talked about doing it. I have not done it. But also we don't have Hot Topic,
I
so
was gonna say you don't have. I would
but we
love to see. I would love to see a Norwegian Hot Topic.
I guess the closest you can get is like Ragnarok.
I would love to because I imagine it just looking like an IKEA house,
IKEA house.
but like with the occasional black accent.
Mm.
But yeah, like I think it's fascinating that this issue of misogyny. Oh, I used to work at Barnes and Noble, and they always tried to fuck in the fantasy section. Everyone was trying to fuck in those big comfy chairs, and that's why you don't sit in them.
Why? I mean, that would never work now, I feel, because everyone's reading fantasy now, and I feel like that's the most populated aisle.
Girl, I have some bad news for you. They're still trying to fuck in the fantasy section.
Oh.
Those
Group
those
section in the fantasy section.
those Akatar girls are insane.
I'm beginning to notice.
Those Akatar girls are crazy. Listen.
Oh my god.
It's so funny though, because like I remember one of my coworkers was reading this like polyamorous like hockey rom com, and she was like, "This is so salacious. I can't believe how dirty this is." And it's like, y'all have the most vanilla smut I have ever seen.
Oh, speaking of, side note, but Amanda, speaking of misogyny, do you just want to like dip a little bit into how your country is trying to ban porn and put romance authors and readers and also librarians in jail?
Girl, I don't know why you want me to talk about this. Like I co-signed on this bill.
I don't know. It's just
I don't know why you put me on this pedestal. Like I am not a romance author who is affected by this shit. But yes, there are parts of the United States who are trying to ban porn and romance because it's corrupting the children.
yeah, and I saw this video where there was, someone who talks about, I think they are an author and who talks about media literacy and stuff a lot, who
Mm-hmm.
was talking about how this will, it was making like this was a video going out to the conservative book talk girlies who didn't
Mm-hmm.
think this would affect them, but it's like, no, you don't understand. This will make it illegal for you to possess your
Yeah, you're not going to be
isolated,
able to get off to your hot fairy king porn
and like
anymore.
your Ali Hazelwood books, and it doesn't help if you download your favorite AO3 fics because it's illegal to be in possession of them. And I'm over here like I have two thoughts in my head at this time listening to this video. One is, as Ren says it, size in America. And the other one is like, because they were talking about how this can put romance authors, like anyone who doesn't write fade to black romance, like fade to black sex scenes, if it's like an open door type thing, you can be put in the sex offender registry. Yep. And I was like, how bad taste is it if I try to use this as a selling point? Like, could I put in my bio, like,
my porn is so hot, I am now a registered sex offender.
Right? Can I
don't think that will work the way you think it will.
My girlfriend said it was a terrible idea. If someone Googled me and the first word they saw
is registered sex offender.
But I was like, are you sure this is not a good selling point?
I am 100% sure. I agree with your girlfriend. Please don't do this. I think the hottest endorsement I ever received was a couple said that they ended up having sex after reading one of my fics, and I felt very conflicted. Yeah, it was a straight couple.
Yeah, right. It's like the ultimate wank and tell, but also.
But I'm also just trying to figure out the context of a straight couple reading a gay fic and being like, that was so hot, I need to fuck you now.
I mean, porn's gonna porn. Right! Yeah. I think it would be a very funny tagline.
It would, no. Stop. Stop it.
I'm gonna put it in my fucking Instagram bio.
No. Please.
I'm never allowed to do anything.
Yeah, I know. I keep you so repressed. I don't let you do anything fun, like say you're a registered sex offender.
It's not only you, though. Like, I am being oppressed from several angles here.
Maybe you need to be repressed, Corolla. If this is your idea of fun, maybe you need to be repressed. The takeaway from the misogyny episode. Some of y'all need to be repressed.
This is why we still have misogyny in BL. Because of people like me.
It's so funny because
apparently can't be trusted.
I have made this joke multiple times about gatekeeping in fandom, and it's I really hate gatekeeping, but also if DashCon is proof of anything, some of y'all need to be gatekept.
Yeah, but truly.
I love how open the fandom experience is now, but also some of you very clearly needed to have never left that fucking ball pit. You should still be there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's true. Just look at how messy fandom is right now, and how, how polarized it is, and how conservative puritanism is seeping into every nook and cranny. Gatekeeping is starting to look like a good plan. It was better when normal people didn't know what shipping was.
Yeah, and then we could just ship our fictional incest all we wanted. I want to put a bow on that just because here's the thing. VPNs still exist. So that bill is another one of those fascist tools of we're just trying to shock and awe. Because it's, how do you even enforce that? How do you enforce all of AO3? Do you it's one of those laws that's designed entirely to just take attention away. Because the dildo law here in Texas, they're not doing monthly checks where ICE kicks in your door and is how many dildos?
How nice it must be to have that amount of time and resources, right?
Yeah, and we don't.
No.
Trump fired all the agencies. We don't. So while I don't want to say that this threat is empty, because it's part of a larger concern, it's a whole lot of fascist hot air. It's a whole lot of fascist hot air. Because again, Texas can't enforce its dildo law. I don't even know how you get arrested for that. Do you have to send a picture to Greg Abbott? Hello. You have to send a picture to the fucking governor and be like, "Hello, I'm in possession of 7 dildos. Come at me, bro."
it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll have to like document it. It's like the
yeah,
one child policy in
yeah.
China.
Oh no, it does have a bad presence. Like I am not saying that to disarm or declaw this. I'm just saying it's a part of a bigger tool to distract us from, oh, Trump isn't handling Gaza very well.
Mm,
It can also scare people away from actually accepting themselves, like, oh, it's forbidden, therefore being me is wrong. Yeah, I mean, Texas has been
yeah,
great at that. The way I forgot that was a thing. Yeah, it's like, how do you enforce that dildo rule? You don't. Like, we don't have like monthly checks.
you still don't. Uh-huh.
I quit the podcast.
You know what? I'm glad that you're still frozen and I can't see the look of disappointment on your face.
Good, because it was pretty lethal. Like, I quit the podcast. I quit the entire podcast.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's important even now to talk about this misogyny because, as we've mentioned and discussed, with these harmful laws policing, especially female pleasure and female desire, it is even more important to discuss how misogyny inside and outside of BL fandom is dangerous.
Mm.
This is what misogyny's goal is to silence and police women. And it's done usually through microaggressions, the well actuallys and, oh, well, you and your girls and your stupid gay kissing books. It's done typically through microaggressions. Now it's just aggression.
Mm.
And that should be alarming and concerning to everyone because it does set a hell of a precedence. Carla, do you want to tell the listeners at home what we are covering next month?
A much lighter topic. A beacon
We're still
of
going to talk about
BL
misogyny.
history. Of course, we can't escape it. However, I still think it's a much lighter topic as we are. I mean, lighter as in the there's nothing more life or death than sports anime, but gay sports.
We're going to talk about gay sports.
I am so excited. If I had the time, I would rewatch all of Free. No, I would rewatch the first season.
Yeah, I would not watch all of Free.
Though there's a gay rugby anime that I apparently haven't watched that I didn't know existed until a while ago, and I'll watch that
too. Hello. We're so glad that you're here. Yeah, there's that gay rugby anime that I need to watch. I need to finish Surume because I started it and then I got bored.
Yeah,
I started it and I got really bored.
I need to watch the second season.
Yeah.
But I'd have to rewatch the first because I can't remember anything. I just remember he had target panic. Like, that was the main.
Yeah, performance issues are common in men. It happens to the best of us.
Side note, this may be surprising. What?
Go ahead, side note.
No, because okay, this is backstory. I was on Instagram.
Okay.
And there was a post in my feed, just like recommended, which turned out to be a clip from the TV show 911 Lone Star. And it was like an adult trans man talking to a trans teenager and being all, I didn't have anyone telling me that it was going to be okay, but I'm telling you right now. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I have to see this. Mm-hmm. And turns out, of course, that this clip was from the final episode of the final season.
Yes.
So I was like, okay. So I started watching season 1. I actually quite like it. I love how diverse. Mm-hmm. Watch it. Free is amazing. But I love how diverse 911 Lone Star is. But I watched an episode yesterday where one of the characters is going through chemo and therefore is struggling with erectile dysfunction. And I was like, why is it always like this? It's always like they can't get it up. And so it turns into this whole thing where it's all, oh, I'm sorry, this never happens to me. And and they are super down and out. And the woman is disappointed. And I'm like, if that was me, maybe this is the gay person in me talking. But like, if I was in that situation and I didn't want to feel like less of a man, why didn't he just go down on her? satisfy her and not say anything, and then he could have just been like, no, this was all about you. Don't, like, why couldn't you frame it in a more, I don't know, just a thought.
Corolla, I have some unfortunate news for you. You see, that's called finding a solution.
That's a logic thing again, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that has
okay.
nothing to do with you being gay. It's just TV can't do that.
No, but I was just thinking the whole solving this with performing oral sex. Maybe that was the gay in
that's
me.
the gay. Yes.
Yeah.
What's for pretend? Yes.
No.
I'm fine with. I love that weird fucking nerd.
I struggled with Nitori in the first season, and then I came to really love him. But I can't get over my friend who is, she lives in Japan, and Nitori is like this huge like home center store, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Japanese IKEA. And when she heard that there was a character named Nitori, she just lost it, and now I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh my god, I love that weird little nerd. I don't know if I like him with Ren just because I feel like that's weirdly volatile.
I like him with Momo.
Sure. Sure.
And
I
the
mean,
fact that he used to be senpai.
as long as Ren isn't with Haru, that's fine.
Why are you so evil? The
long as
whole
Ren-
show is
long as Ren
about
is kept as far away from Haru as humanly possible.
what you mean. What you're trying to say is as long as
No.
it is as far as humanly possible away from Sosuke and his busted shoulder, everything is
He
fine.
got
That's
hurt
what you're trying to say.
one fucking time. He got
He-
injured one fucking time.
He got injured. You know who else got hurt? Haru, when he popped out of the woodworks out of nowhere and he was like, stay away from it in. And I'm like, who the fuck are you?
The
And also he
entire
didn't
second season cast popped out of the woodworks.
Yeah, but
Just
Kiss
saying.
Me was enjoyable.
Yeah, well, anyways. As long as Ren is kept away from Haru, I'm perfectly fine
So-
with this solution.
As you can see, next month is going to be very peaceful on the Yaoi Shelf. Amanda is going to have to say nice things about Yuri on Ice.
Mm. We'll see about that.
That's what you said. You wrote it in the outline. Ja,
We'll see.
Santa, vent litt.
I love your dumb fairy language.
My dumb fairy language.
I love your dumb fairy language so much. Yes!
Why am I? See, this is the problem. This is what's wrong with the world. We used to be a proper country, and then everyone abandoned me when season 2 started. Everyone was shipping it in Haru in season 1, and then you all jumped ship like a bunch of mutinous cowards.
You make it sound like
I'm disowning
Mako
all
Haru.
of you.
You make it sound like Makoharu wasn't literally the other ship
I don't
next
know
to
her.
yours. Like you're making it sound like that wasn't literally the other boat parked in the marina.
No, the other boat was Rei and Nagisa, which, was a thing. You know what? I'm disowning all of you. Maybe I'll just not show up. You can, and then you can all
I'm sure there
all
are people.
sail your stupid boat together.
I'm sure that there are people who still ship Ren and Haru, and I'm not angry at those people who made the wrong decision. I can be disappointed in that choice, but I'm not. I hold no ill will towards you for picking the less stable option.
Oh, ye
Yeah,
of little fate.
me of too much faith, and Mako's back.
I still love that post that
Glorious.
is like Mako's back is the width of 3 Nagisas, and then someone was like, "Ah, yes, Nagisa is my favorite, my favorite measurement unit."
I have severe spatial awareness issues. Yes. I have severe spatial awareness issues. So like measuring in Nagisas is the most helpful thing for me. Because you can't just
Obviously,
say Like, oh, his fucking wingspan is this. I don't know what the fuck that means. Measure him in twinks.
Yes. Honestly, great. Maybe I could get better at math. Actually,
If
I
it's
probably
all,
would.
I don't think that'd help. I say that as a fellow gay who can't do math. Like, that wasn't even like discriminatory. I
No,
also
but
can't do math.
it's true. I once I tricked Rora into watching one of my Thai BLs with me by luring her in using an episode where he was trying to learn union and intersection, and then somehow she flipped it on its head, and suddenly she's trying to teach me union and intersection using BL. I felt tricked. Yes, I'm not alone, and I am correct.
I'm not going to say you're correct, but you're not alone.
I am correct.
You certainly are one of the many ships possible.
But I also had to go through losing my friends to another ship as they jumped ship when Sasuke appeared. And I was like, what the fuck? How could you do that to me? Andrea, I'm looking at you if you're watching.
Because Sasuke is he's a good sturdy ship.
No! He's in the way.
We have an entire ocean. We're not trying to occupy a fish tank. There is a whole ocean available to us. There's room for Sasuke.
No.
As you guys mentioned, Mom and Dad Fighting is the TV show. So get ready for that next episode.
It's going to be a lot of that next episode.
The way I side-eyed that, damn. Listen.
It's okay. I can't. Yeah.
So yes, next month we'll be talking about gay sports, in which unfortunately I have to say nice things about Yuri on Ice. I will probably rewatch Free. And I might hop back on Sudume, depending on how much bandwidth I have. Y'all leave Sosuke alone. I want to know, like, what did he like slash a bunch of tires? Why does everyone hate Sosuke?
Haru.
I
would have hated him if he knows what he did, but we're gonna talk about that next month. Maybe I can, but Nitori's just there. I think he's cute.
What if you sandwich Nitori in between Sosuke and Rin?
No.
What do you know?
No.
Don't make it sound like that's fucking crazy. Fuck you.
My problem in that equation is not Nitori. It's Sasuke.
Okay, no. This is bullying. He literally did nothing.
You started it. I was perfectly content and happy. You're wrong, and you decided to make it my problem. Yes, see? What?
No, you're agreeing to sandwiching Nitori in between Sasuke and Rin.
No, I'm not. However, I would like. I don't care who's in the equation as long as someone sandwiches kiss me. Like that boy is a slut if I ever saw one. Yes.
I mean, I'm sure we could slide him in somewhere. Mm-hmm. But yes, we're going to talk about gay sports. We're going to talk about why oftentimes, despite how gay they are not BL.
I think, yeah. If I have the time, which is very unlikely, maybe this is my calling to actually try to watch ye old Captain Tsubasa.
Oh, man. Go back to Ace of Diamond.
I don't think I've seen Diana Ace. Or did
I watched a lot of it because there was a weird overlap between that and the Death Note fandom.
But Diana Ace was far after, right? It was a long time after the anime came out in like.
Oh, it was a far after, but like there was a very, very weird and specific overlap because we're stupid. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about gay sports. I'm excited to talk about how we got increasingly gay sports and the queering of what we assume are heterosexual stories.
I don't assume they're heterosexual stories.
Okay, well. It's basically all preamble when we finally talk about Sasunaru for our birthday.
Yes.
It's basically all preamble, just so when we talk about Sasanaru for our birthday, you guys have a solid footing in why this keeps happening.
Hmm.
Uh,
I'm
I'm
excited.
I am also excited. I'm excited for a lighter topic. You are correct. We will slap talk about misogyny.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you guys so much for being here. It has been a lovely 2 hours. And I have
Yeah.
almost entirely forgotten that when I turn this camera off, I will still have a sinus infection.
Ugh. Well, I'm sure your sinuses will remind you.
We are getting
Yes!
we're getting live action Tin Dance. Actual
They
gay
look
sport.
they look so good.
It looks so fucking hot.
They look so perfect. I will still not be able to tell them apart because why the fuck do they have the same name? But we will have to touch upon this in the next episode,
Thank
definitely.
you. I'm definitely on the mend, but I'm going to go. I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to rest. I promise.
Good.
I'm not going to build furniture.
Why would you build furniture? What are you doing?
I bought a new bookcase,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
I'm not going to go build furniture. I'm going to rest.
Good. I know where
Thank
you live.
you. Do know where I live.
I do.
You're also an ocean away, so come
Shut
at
up.
me, bro.
Listen. I
So
also probably wouldn't find it because I
yeah,
don't have a sense of direction.
you also
That's
wouldn't know where to go, so come at me, bro.
beside the point.
I know where you live. Yeah, thousands of miles away. I'm gonna
Oh my
build
god.
so much furniture while coughing up a lung.
Please don't cough up a lung. You need your lung.
I do. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with
Thank
us. Truly the
you.
highlight of my day. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns about the episode, you are welcome to address them in Discord or in the comments down below. We will see you all next month to
Woohoo.
talk about arts. And I hope all of you had a great Valentine's Day. Valentine's one of my favorite holidays. So I hope that you all got to enjoy, and we will see you in the next one.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.